Hello and welcome to another video. Last time we made mi ayam, which was a bit complicated, and one thing I didn't have for it was a proper sambal, or chili sauce. Now, chili sauce in Indonesia, there are a bunch of different varieties. They're used for all kinds of different things, and they include different ingredients based upon what you're going to use them for. Now, this particular sambal that I'm going to make today is for mi ayam or other Indonesian soups. And it's a very simple sambal. It consists of nothing more than a particular kind of chili pepper called cabe rawit, garlic, salt, sugar, some water, and sometimes a very little bit of vinegar. We're going to omit the vinegar today, and I'll explain why. Although if you've watched the previous videos, you already know that oftentimes vinegar is added to these soups separately, so you don't probably want it in the chili sauce itself. That's the basics here. In future times, I might make some other dishes that involve sambals also, like ayam goreng pedas, which is basically a chicken confit in a tomato shallot sambal. But we're not going to do that today. This is just the sambal for this particular sort of soup. On to ingredients. Cabe rawit, also known as birdseye chili. This is a chili that you can use in a lot of different kinds of Asian foods. It has basically a spiciness and not a lot of other flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these right here. So you're not going to have to watch that, of course. Some people add vinegar. If you do, use the strong stuff, 25% acidity, garlic, and salt and sugar. I'm not going to add vinegar, but some people do. Now, in my previous rendang video, you got to see me use this grinding stone to pound things like coconut. But today we're going to go ahead and use it to make sambal. One interesting thing here is you can see that I've been making a lot of rendang, or I have made rendang a few times, and consequently, the stone here has gotten stained by the turmeric. It's a bit yellow. That's normal, happens. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pound these pieces of garlic, and then I'm going to start adding chili to them. And I'm going to add a bit of salt to the garlic. That helps it pound better. Just a little bit. Look how nicely that pounded in very quickly. Now, if I were making this in a blender, I would be putting everything into the blender, starting with sort of probably pressing the garlic in and then adding the chili peppers. But I'm going to do this the traditional way. I don't actually own a blender, as surprising that is. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding chili peppers. Now, one real problem here to note is that if you get like pounded chili peppers on your skin, it's going to burn after a while. So control over pounding is important. If you're not comfortable with that, just do it in a blender. And basically, I just kind of work it. And as it continues to go, I will continue to add more. I'll come back when I've worked all of these in, and then you can kind of see the consistency. But again, with this particular method, it's an up and down pounding motion. Basically, I use something, it basically uses like a hammer mill to crush and grind everything. So I've been by no means added all the chilies yet, but you can see as I continue to pound it, the chilies are breaking up. One of the really nice things about this completely natural rock I found in the park is that I can tilt it to direct a little more specific force to grind rather than just simply flatten. If you're using the standard pestles, you may want to alter the angles a bit. But you can see I'm kind of, you know, able to kind of grind things slowly this way. And it takes a bit of time and effort. This isn't something you can really rush. I'm going to add a few more chilies here. And I'll keep this up until the whole thing's done. And so here we have, after kind of the first run through, this is good enough for this step. Next I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in a saucepan, cover it with a little water, add a little more salt and a little bit of sugar, and we're going to bring it to a boil. Then I'll run it through this again and actually make the final puree, if you will. So here we have our saucepan. I'm going to add a bit more salt. And a bit of sugar. Then I'm going to bring this up to a nice hard boil, and I'm going to cook the chili peppers in this for just a couple of minutes. Once they're done there, then I will grind the pieces through the stone again, mix it with the liquid, and we'll be done. You can, as I say, add a little bit of strong vinegar. This is 25%, similar to what they have in Indonesia. But again, you can typically this will be added into the soup itself, so I wouldn't worry. Now, after a few minutes of boiling, I can tell from just the consistency and everything that these chilies have softened quite a bit. When you're boiling this, make sure to use a kitchen fan, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of very spicy vapors in your face, which you probably don't want. Chili peppers are something to actually be something to handle with a little bit of respect, and that especially includes these Asian chilies. So now I'm going to transfer the solids back onto the grinding stone, and we're going to go through it again. I'll come back when I have them on the grinding stone, so that you can kind of see how they grind in this respect. Then I think this will need a bit more water, and I'll put it in a jar of some sort or other container and put it in the freezer until I need it next. And here we have the cooked chilies, and I'm just going to start on one corner. And work my way across, and what you're going to see is that I get something that's nice and, you know, it grinds very finely and smoothly here. The seeds may remain whole, and that's fine, but the rest of it's going to grind down nicely. And I'll come back when I've gone through this a couple of times. So now I've run this through the grinding stone a few more times, and I've settled on a circular motion to help the seeds kind of grind through the skin a bit, and you can see how well that works. It's going to take just maybe another 5-10 minutes of working it like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and assume it's good enough. At that point I will add more water, put it in a jar, and or maybe I'll just leave it like this. I mean, it's supposed that you don't really need to add more water, and then put it in the freezer. So I'll come back when I've done that, and then you can kind of see the final consistency, at least as far as I could get it on this grinding stone. So here's the final consistency of this. Now this is a lot more concentrated than we would ever put in a soup. So when I put it in a jar, I'm going to I think, double the volume with water, and maybe add a small amount of additional salt and sugar as well. Now, most of the mi ayam places serve an extremely smooth sambal. The only way you can really get it that smooth, I think, is to use a blender, because as you can notice here, the seeds don't really grind very well on the grinding stone. But a lot of places do serve these sort of very sort of rustic sambals that are clearly hand ground, and those are very good also. So here's the basic here's the very basic sambal for mi ayam. Once I add it to the jar, I will come back with you know, the additional adjustments. And so there we have Sambal Bakso. Now, I'm not going to do a taste test of this one for relatively obvious reasons, but this is a great general Indonesian condiment for soups, for especially where you have meatballs, like those chicken noodle bowls, the mi ayam that we did before, sotos, that sort of thing. This is a fairly standard condiment in Indonesia. You can then take what I have here and run it through a blender if you just want something extra smooth, or you can run it through a blender at the start or at the end instead of using the grinding stone. I did end up deciding to add just a couple drops of the vinegar, just to help preserve it and stuff like that. But this will then go into the freezer, and I can take it out, thaw a little bit, and use it for the soups and so forth when I make them. So this is a whole lot. It will last me a long time. So you probably won't see me make this again. But there we have it. Anyway, enjoy, and of course, pay attention to safety as you make this. There are 2 or 3 safety tips that I want to kind of give. The first one is that chili irritates the skin. It also irritates the eyes. Try not to get it in your eyes. If you do get it in your eyes or it's burning your skin, there really isn't that much you can do except sit back and wait for the pain to subside. Chili tends to stimulate nerve endings, but it doesn't tend to, but it doesn't seem to cause any significant damage. So just sit back if that happens and wait for the pain to subside. The second thing is, when you're done with this, wash your hands really well, and wash them in a combination of cold water, soap, and with a washcloth or something else to provide some extra friction. That's really important because the chili capsaicin itself is oil soluble, and you want to try to get oils on your hands cleaned up very well. So with that in mind, go ahead and knock yourself out with this, but hopefully not literally, and enjoy Indonesian food. Selamat makan.